Perfect. Well, once again, good morning, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for the Legal Intake from Chaos to Control webinar. We are super excited to have everyone here today. I'm going to go through a couple of housekeeping things with you, and then I'm going to give over to the people that you really want to talk to, which is Deirdre, Jessica, and Matt. So to let you guys know, everyone has come in as muted. That is not because we don't want to hear from you, but just because we want to make sure that the sound is as clear as possible for everyone. So please, we want to make the webinar as interactive as possible. To do that, there is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that, you can ask questions to our panelists today, and they will answer it as they go through the webinar today. We will also be making a recording of the webinar and send the link to the recording as well as the slides through to everyone within the rest of this week. And now, without further ado, I am going to give you over to Deirdre Leone.
Thank you, Carla. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. My name is Deirdre Leone. I am the SVP of Commercial. I am also a recovering attorney, and I'm joined here today for this fabulous discussion by my colleagues, Matt Gould and Jessica King. I will turn it over to Matt so he can introduce himself.
Deirdre, thank you very much. Delighted to be here. I'm General Counsel here at Contract Pod. I'm still an attorney. I was the General Counsel for the EMEA region for Telstra for almost 20 years and have a lot of experience running legal teams in multi-jurisdictional teams and really very well versed in the issues that legal teams face with trying to manage legal intake and matter management. Very much looking forward to discussing that with you later in this session. Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica King. I too am a recovering attorney, and then I've spent time in creating content for attorneys, actually building software products from a product manager perspective, and now in pre-sales. I'm really excited to speak with you about this issue today and to demo our solution a little bit later.
Thanks so much, Matt and Jessica. Well, on to the next slide. Thank you. As you know, Contract Pod is known for CLM, and we've been recognized by Gartner as a visionary in the market. So naturally, we're always thinking about what's next. How do we lead the market and drive greater value for our customers? We've recognized that the next big thing really in legal tech is legal intake. As a company, we're very well positioned to incorporate legal intake into our overall ecosystem. And when you think about on the most basic level, our features and functions of the platform can be really applied to accommodate a variety of different use cases. And the extension to legal intake is really organic in that we currently organize documents and contracts. And now with legal intake, we can organize legal requests. So as you can see here on the screen, this is really a key challenge for legal teams when they're looking at efficiency and how to create that efficiency. Almost 60% of lawyers, as you see here on the left-hand side, see improving business processes as one of their top 3 challenges. And legal intake really extends to, a lot of that. Next slide, please. Great. So when we look at attorney and employee ratios, we clearly see the problem defined here. There are never enough resources on a legal team to support all of the employees and all of their needs and everything that crops up in the business. This really creates an area of opportunity around the automating of legal requests and handling those through technology to mitigate the burden of such high volumes of requests. And you can see here on the right-hand side that automation and tech is really the leading method of driving, internal client satisfaction and delivering legal services, right? That's really the key area of focus that departments are looking at to optimize the process and really make improvements.
Yeah, and Dee, if I could just layer in a little bit there too,
Sure.
I think we are, the rest of the business has been looking at ways to automate and use tech to make their processes more efficient, right? And so I think legal's jumping on that bandwagon now. I think we may have been a little slow to adopt initially, but I think seeing the benefits to the rest of the business is really kind of driving the point home that this is something that we can do to help legal teams.
Absolutely. First it was sales tech, then it was MarTech, then it was FinTech, and now it's certainly legal tech.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Next slide. So when we talk about the current process for legal intake across many, many legal teams, this is typically what we're seeing, right? A lot of chaos. I think this slide conveys very well the amount of chaos that happens on a daily basis. I wanted to really bring in Matt and Jessica now to talk to their experiences. Matt?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was at Telstra, and indeed it happens here, Contract Pod as well, trying to get information or getting instructions, because everything comes from a myriad of different sources, whether it be by email, whether it be by Teams, whether it be by Messenger. And also one of the things that my team found is that they were getting requests that weren't really for them. So they were spending a lot of time trying to actually triage, trying to find another lawyer, trying to find a different lawyer with the right experience, because things were just going to places, and then things would get chased, things would get dropped, things wouldn't necessarily get moved over, and of course from a leadership point of view, trying to manage a team that's dealing with that chaos is very hard, because making sure that the right people are doing the right jobs, things are being prioritized correctly. You're having to do so much of this by trust, if you like, but without actually any systems, without any information. Trying to get reporting is very, very hard. And so therefore, when you're under pressure from a finance team in terms of being able to justify what people are doing, when you're trying to do annual appraisals, it's very, very hard even to get the information. And again, the feedback that I was always getting from my team is that we were wasting so much of our time. It's affecting our health and being. We're having to work too hard, and a lot of our time is being spent doing unproductive work, and therefore surely that can be sorted out. Surely you can build a system that enables the team to work far more efficiently and to focus on high value work. From a contract point of view, we've built our systems in terms of looking at the contract life cycle, but so many requests are not really about contracts. They're about individual pieces of advice. They're about how to find something. They're about how do you deal with a renewal. It can be so many different things, and getting that to the right person so it can be worked properly, triaged, is hard if you're working with so many different systems without any kind of tool to help. And I think this is where we've moved. So that's my personal experience, and I'm sure that resonates with some of the people who are on watching this webinar today.
And Matt,
Absolutely.
did you even know how many attorneys or how many people in the business your team of attorneys supported? Did you have visibility into that very much?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the teams we were supporting, and I knew the numbers, but nevertheless, trying to make sure that they're going to the right people, trying to therefore help manage workloads became very, very hard, because we're lawyers, we try to help. So therefore, if someone asks us for a salesperson comes in and asks for some assistance, then you tend to deal with that immediately because it's probably quite urgent, and therefore you don't necessarily triage. It interrupts what you're doing. It doesn't go to, therefore it's actually the people who are actually the most responsive, because they are tend actually to end up getting lumped, because I'll always go to that person even though they're not the right person, because I know they'll give me a very quick turnaround and they'll be helpful, and that actually, it's not great from a productivity point of view, and it's not great from a health and wellness point of view, and puts a lot of strain on very hardworking people.
Yeah, and I know to kind of that point too, from our research, we've heard that when somebody needs to go on leave or when somebody leaves the organization, like how do we get visibility into what they're working on, what the status of it is, what needs to be followed up with? That's a real kind of challenge.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, people when they leave an organization they're never as good at leaving notes as they might be. So trying to find out what is the status of everything, just knowing that something's been done. If people have left the organization, people have gone on vacation, something might crop up. An emergency, if an emergency crops up, making sure, how do you then find the information? How does the business keep going without it putting even additional strain on the other members of the team? All of these things just cause stress and they cause strain. And again, from a leadership point of view, as I say, it's so hard to manage.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, from that leadership point of view, when you want your team healthy and productive and happy, you want to give people the ability to sign off and not have to be available during vacations or when they're sick, right? And so being able to give visibility into what their workload is so that other people can handle it and let them sign off is I think kind of really, really important.
And I think one of the other things that I see, again, from a leadership point of view, is that, again, looking at the stats that Dee was showing a moment or two ago, often leaders in legal teams don't have the stats at their fingertips to be able to justify the amount of resource that they need, to be able to go to their CFO saying, look, actually, we are supporting this number of sales requests. We are getting this amount of information. These number of requests are coming in order to be able to report those stats to the business, which may in fact say, actually, the team is overworking. The team is also, either you can then look at how do you reduce that workload. Maybe a tool like this can help triage an earlier stage to reduce workload, or make sure that it's going directly to appropriate teams, because maybe a lot of the requests that are coming to the legal team really should be going to the customer success team, for example. So there may not even be really legal requests, even though they're maybe in a contract. But also you've then got that ability to be able to go to the very senior leadership going, actually, the team really is under pressure. This is the amount of requests we're getting. This is how quickly we're turning things over. And therefore that could potentially justify additional headcount. And so again, these things can be sort of turned around in terms of, but it's very hard when things are coming in through so many different sources. How do you manage it? How do you track it? How do you report it?
Absolutely. And the business environment is very data driven, and all of the other business units across a typical enterprise are now feeding into, that data driven environment and making important business decisions on that basis. So it is time for legal to catch up. Absolutely. And then on this slide here, what we've captured is really the current state. So if you look here on the left-hand side, 76% of team members have reported that they spend a ton of time on manual tasks. This further reinforces and validates what Matt and Jessica were talking about on the previous slide. And only 18% of legal departments have reported automation of those routine tasks. So the minority here is certainly creating efficiency, and the majority is kind of going with status quo. So with legal intake, wouldn't it be great if you could flip those numbers and have 76% of legal teams taking advantage of automation? Great. Next slide, please. All right. So we wanted to conduct a poll here and really understand what's going on current state across your legal teams. So the question is, how do most of your requests come in? And the choices provided are emails, ticketing, so a ticketing solution, direct. Maybe someone walks down the hall and asks you a question. Before we had legal intake, that's why I used to love being in the London office with Matt. Phone calls, instant messenger, so any type of messaging device. And then the final choice here is multiple. So if it's just a grab bag of different methodologies, you would then select multiple. So please take a moment to cast your vote and share perhaps some of the chaos that's going on within your organization.
And Matt, pre-legal intake, would you be multiple?
Absolutely multiple. And in fact, what used to infuriate my team was generally multiple for the same request.
Yeah.
So the email would come in, then Teams, and then you'd get the phone call just to check that you'd got the email.
Mm-hmm.
Was that true of you?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so here we have emails being the leader. And then when you think about, the inefficiency created around emails, I mean, I know that some emails that are sent aren't sent direct, they're sent to a legal inbox. And as you mentioned, Matt, then how do you identify who's picked this up, and are you sure that someone's even working on it, right? There's a lot of inherent risk there.
And if people are on holiday, people are on vacation, stuff can so easily get missed, and it can't necessarily be easily tracked. Right.
And I'm sure you're not in your team's inboxes, trying to track what they're working on, right? Okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the control. 91% of survey participants believe there was an opportunity to modernize this legal intake process. So as you can see here, through legal intake, this is our legal intake solution. This is what we have done for legal teams. So we're giving you back the control through automation. A business user, any employee across the enterprise can put the request in through the solution to legal. Legal then receives that request. Okay, that is assured. There are no guarantees in the legal world, but if the request is put in, it's certainly going to flow through the system. And then the centralization of all of the communications, of all of the activity around that request is centralized and can be automated. So we can help you to reduce the level of manual analysis and response that's associated with handling that request. And then you can actually collaborate with other internal teams, outside counsel to handle that request, bringing it to closer to the finish line. And then, of course, tracking and reporting and capturing all of that data, as we've been discussing throughout this conversation, to help you optimize. And finally, making sure that that request is completed. So this is how, we can support you through a legal intake tool and create automation and process optimization. Next slide, please. So legal intake, one of the key benefits that it provides is not only to the legal team, but also to your business teams. It really is about connecting the enterprise to legal. That is a primary benefit. And as you can see here, as we've discussed, we do so through centralizing and automating those legal requests, streamlining the communication and collaboration, and then, of course, tracking trends and outcomes. All of this will help legal to not function in a silo and provide visibility. Next slide, please. Benefits to the legal team. Matt, I would love for you to cover some of these points.
Absolutely, and I think that it really is what we were talking about earlier. It's that obvious benefit in terms of being able to actually keep a track on where everything is, being able to keep a track on matters, making sure that the legal requests when they come in are being triaged as an early as possible point, potentially by the system itself, so that requests then go to the right person, so they're not having to go via this sort of convoluted route. You're not having to forward emails, and then they're immediately getting logged in the system, so you can immediately then start reporting. You can tell how long it's taken something to pick up, but at least you know that it's actually gone somewhere and someone has got it and it's in their to-do list. They can then reassign it clearly as necessary as well. And of course, that then starts to give you the insights and the data to understand whether different teams are under-resourced as opposed to other teams. For example, are too many requests coming in for the same kind of piece of information, which means maybe you need to automate something else, or there needs to be some training, or there needs to be some there seems to be other ways of solving an issue as to why you're getting so many requests in one place, but you're doing that based on data rather than sort of guesswork, supposition, assumptions. And of course, all this leads to job satisfaction, because it just means that the lawyers can start to focus 100% on the actual doing the work, doing the high value work, the stuff that we've all been spent years at university training to do, rather than simply being sort of glorified admin, having to find things, find information, move things around, which of course also interrupts your train of thought. So to me, it's one of those things that, and of course, the larger an organization gets, the more important this can be, because you're making sure that things are coming to the right person, it's getting there as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Okay, our next slide, we'll discuss benefits to the business team. Jessica, I invite you for commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are, I think, a lot of benefits to the business as a whole to having a centralized legal intake tool. First is that single point of contact. So, where today it might go to, legal@company.com, some requests. But you don't know who to follow up with. You don't know where your request has gone, right? So it kind of feels like it can disappear into a black hole sometimes. Not that Matt would ever do that to us, but sometimes when requests go to legal, right, it can feel like you put in a request and you don't know what happened to it. Or kind of to Matt's point earlier, somebody reached out to you one time on a previous issue. So that's now your go-to person for all your legal questions, right? So that single point of contact that you might have isn't necessarily the right person to get the job done, right? So you have that single point of contact here that's going to route it to the right person automatically for you. And then again, which leads into that transparency and visibility. So where your requests are at, who they're with, what stage of the process they're in, so that you can easily check on them and not have to, ping your favorite attorney 5 times a day asking what the status of your request is. And then, I think this has been layered in kind of throughout this, but the rest of the business has been using data to kind of drive their strategic decisions for years now. Finance, operations, marketing, right? They're all very data heavy, because it's kind of proven to help identify trends and solutions, right? And so now with our legal intake tool, we can capture data on all the we can capture data via CLM on contracts, but now we can capture data on all the rest of those legal questions, right? So, where requests are coming from, which areas of the business, which parts of the world, right? So we can actually identify, which parts of the business might need additional resources or retraining, and really kind of help the business as a whole run more efficiently by, identifying, areas of legal risk or legal concern.
Absolutely. I mean, legal is in such a unique position in the business, right? It's arguably the only business unit that actually touches all of the other business units. So it's, the role that legal plays in creating business efficiency across the enterprise is huge. It's huge. Thank you so much, Jessica. Okay, so we only have 2 more slides before we move on to the exciting portion of our webinar today, which will be the demo. We do have one additional poll for you, second and last. And so the question here is legal intake a strategic initiative for 2023? And we've allotted 5 choices here. The first one, you already have a intake solution and you're not planning on changing. You already have an intake solution and you're planning to enhance that. The third is yes, it is a planned strategic initiative for next fiscal year. Fourth, already implementing a legal intake solution. So you've recently identified this as a need, and it was actually an initiative for 2022 and you're implementing. And then finally, no, nothing, not at all. So take a moment to enter in your response. And we thank you all for your transparency. If we could please display the results. Great. So we see that there's a decent amount here of change management going on. Only 25% of those who responded have not placed this on their radar for one reason or another. So thank you for validating our initial hypothesis and market research that this really is the next big thing in legal tech. Great. Next slide. And so finally, as mentioned in the beginning of our discussion, our company is really well positioned as the legal leader to tackle other issues and other use cases, leveraging the configurability of our platform. And legal teams can now leverage our solution as one legal platform to manage a multitude of responsibilities outside of contract lifecycle management. Highlighted here, of course, legal intake. That's part of the One Legal platform, which helps legal teams to really simplify their operations and removes communication silos, allowing for, as we've discussed all along, full visibility across the legal department. So it's really about bringing everything into one place and simplifying what's legal. And with that, thank you all for your attention. I'll turn it over to Jessica to conduct the demonstration.
Great, thanks, Dee. I'm really excited to demo this for you guys today. Just kind of highlight Dee's point just now. You know, we are One Legal platform, and this is where you can come and access, you know, those different applications that you have with us, CLM. But right now we're going to jump into our legal intake tool right here. And this will bring us to a dashboard. So for the legal users, this is where you can come in and see that kind of quick snapshot of the legal issues that have been submitted to you and your team. So, you know, here we can see an overview of, you know, what types of requests that we have, easily see their statuses, and the statuses can be different for different types of requests. So you can see here that legal consultation request has different statuses, and you can easily navigate and see how many are in each one. And then right here on the screen too, you have the ability to take different actions. You can add a request right from here or permanently at the top of the page. There's always the ability to just log a new request, but I'm just going to go ahead and jump in right here. And so this is going to let me go and choose the type of request that I want to make. So here you can see we have different options. I'm just going to keep it simple. Right now, I am just going to ask legal questions. So I'm just going to select this. And what happens is you'll see a very kind of simple intake form pop up here, but things are happening in the background. You can see that, you know, we're auto assigning things and things are happening so that we can get that request moving along. And now I can just type in the question. I want to hire Jane Doe, but she has a non-compete. What are my options? And I can put in a deadline for this request. And so this will let me now kick off this request just by hitting submit. Now this intake form can be as simple or as complex as you need. It's very flexible. We are just kind of showing the simplest information right here. And this brings you to our kind of details page. So this is where you can see all those things that happened in the background. So, you know, who it was requested by, the department, who it's assigned to, so that you can easily see that information right here on the screen with this request, and then show the request details. So that question and the deadline. So you have all the information relating to this request right in one place. And then we have the ability to kind of assign workflows for each of these requests as well. So we have the ability to review, to close, or to reopen this question. And we can track how long we're spending in each of these stages as well. So you can really kind of get that reporting on how long different types of requests are taking. And then in addition, so we have all the information right here on the page, we can actually capture, you know, the whole conversation around this as well. So, you know, I need to ask somebody to go and research non-compete law. I'm going to tell Kirk that to put in a comment here, please research California non-compete. And then he'll get a notification once I hit post. And then he can come in and see all this record information right here so that he can help me work on this issue. And then, you know, we have the ability to kind of have attachments. So we can pull in that non-compete agreement if we have it, so that, you know, we can look at it as well. And then, you know, we talked about earlier the ability to kind of track at that macro level how long we're spending in each of these stages. If you want kind of more micro time tracking capabilities, we can help with that too. Now, I don't want to send everybody back to, you know, billing by the 10th of an hour, but if you want to kind of track how much time you're spending on certain actions, we can help with that. So here, you know, I'm going to research California non-compete law. I can track kind of generally how much time I'm spending on this, and I can do that right here. And then additionally, what I think is really nice is, you know, once we enter this, if we need to, we can go and actually put additional information on this kind of timekeeping as well by adding a comment or adding an attachment, maybe a memo on our findings. So like I said, we have all of that information relating to this question right in one place. So you don't have to go searching through Teams chats or emails. And then when you're done, you can just click review complete and it'll move to close. And then if you need to go and reopen it at a later point, you have all the same information accessible and you can reopen it. So now we're gonna go ahead and talk to how we can help you with visibility as to all the requests in the system. So, so here we're gonna go into the repository, and this is where all these requests are held. So what we can do is, you know, show you and the information around the type of request it is, any maybe deadlines, the status, who it's assigned to, and the actual department that it's coming from. And these also, you know, with our flexible intake forms, we can actually capture any other sort of data that you might want to search and filter by here. So you can see, maybe I want to go see who that request was made by, so I can see where the requests are coming from as well. And then these can become filters. So I can go and filter down by, like, you know, I just showed the requester user. If I want to go and filter down by the types of requests, the type that we're getting, I can easily go in and access this. And so this is, again, giving us visibility. So I can see, you know, who things are assigned to. So I can, maybe somebody's out on vacation, I can go and get that information and then take action on it. So I see this legal case management is under review. I need to go and check on it, and I have access to it right here. So this is going to take me to this quick snapshot screen, which is going to give me a high level overview of this kind of larger question that I'm dealing with. So the company is with, who it's assigned to, the stage that it's in. And then I can come back to this record details page to get that additional information. So here, this is a little bare bones, but you know what? I can always go in and edit and put more information in this request as well. So just by clicking edit request, I can come in here and make any changes that I need to. So the company it's with, I'm going to make the note that, you know, this is ABC missed one of their deliverables. And so, I need to figure out what to do. If I need to go and reassign it, I have that option as well. So we can always go in and kind of edit this data to make sure it's really up to date so that people have that most relevant information. Again, capturing any notes that are relevant right here in comments as too, and then we have, you know, this is relating to a contract with ABC. So because we're one legal platform, I can go in and actually attach the relevant contract so that's easily accessible from both places, so that when people go into the contract and CLM, they'll see that there's this legal case management issue one click away, and then from here I can easily access the contract right from here as well. So, you know, I've gone in, reviewed that contract. You know, I can click review complete, capture any notes. So here, you know, we can say that maybe I've reviewed that contract, it actually needs an amendment. And I can go and again, save this so I have this record easily accessible. And then I can even go in and add a task right from here as well. So I can assign a task to any user in our system, telling them that to go and amend this contract. So here, you know, amend ABC contract. I can assign it out, select that department. I'm just going to assign it to myself, put a due date on it, any reminder dates, and then because, you know, put the additional information here that I need. So amend ABC contract, and to account for the missed deliverables. And then I'll click create. And then, you know, we'll have that task will get assigned out. So then that user is going to be able to come in, have access to this here, find that original contract in the relationship, and then actually go ahead and amend the contract, and we can close the case, close the issue. So we've walked through a couple of scenarios. Now let's go through and talk about how we can help report and capture all this data that we're seeing in the system here. So in our reports, we can easily go and create ad hoc reports right from the vault in our system. So here I'll go and click on create new reports, and it's actually really quick and easy to create new reports right here. So I can, you know, give it a name right here. So I can call this, you know, request submitted. And I want to go and see what sort of volume of requests I'm getting in our system. So I can go and, you know, select the dates here. So maybe I want to see it from the beginning of the year. I can go select this date range, and this is going to pull in all those requests that have come in during this time period. Similarly, I can actually go in, and if I want to see everything that has been requested maybe over the last 6 months, I can go and only pull those items those requests that have come in the last 6 months into this report. I can further filter down by additional information as well, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you the types of information that we can display. So I want to see what types of requests they were. So I'll choose that. I want to see the status that they're in, when the request came in, maybe who it's assigned to, and any other sort of custom metadata that you're interested in, we can pull into this report. And then, you know, if I want to have this report run on a monthly basis. Every month, I want to see all the requests that have come in the last 6 months. I can set that up so it's actually delivered to my inbox on that regular basis. And then I'll just click save, and this will now be set up for me. So that is our legal intake solution. I'm really happy to answer any questions about it. But Deidre, back to you.
Well, thank you. Now is the Q&A portion. I believe we have some questions in the chat. Okay, so just going to go into the chat. First question is, what is the estimated time between when a request is submitted and when a response or collaboration begins? So typical answer, that depends. Jessica?
And I think the really kind of the key thing is here that we can give you that data, right? So we can tell you how long we're spending in that request submitted stage. We can tell you how long you're spending on average in that review stage. And so we can give you that data to kind of capture those insights, which today I think is ballpark figure, right?
At best, yeah.
At best.
Yeah, you'll capture that data, as Jessica mentioned, and also be able to create your own workflows, right? So collaboration can begin at any point in the workflow, which you determine it should.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to it too. We have the ability to kind of set KPIs and success metrics in the system as well, and to kind of track how you're performing against that. So it could be something that you want to turn into a KPI for your team. We can help track that.
Yes. The second question is, do requests need to be logged in using the platform? Jessica.
Yeah, so you don't have to come into the platform to log your requests. So we have an Outlook plugin, a Gmail plugin, so you can actually go and log requests using our plugin from where you're already working. And then, similarly, we can, I think questions that Dee and I have been asked in calls previous to this is, can we put this in our company intranet? Right. And so then we can, and we can put a link where your employees are already kind of troubleshooting or trying to figure things out.
Absolutely. The point is that we want to drive really high rates of user adoption. So by having the requests come in through Outlook or through Teams or through your intranet, wherever those users, those employees are used to living, that's where we want to meet them in their native environment. Great. The third question, can questions within the intake form be modified or customized?
Yeah, our that intake form is fully configurable, right? So we can very quickly and easily on the back end tweak it to meet your needs, right? That's one of the philosophies of our no-code platform, is to allow that kind of easy changes to meet your team's needs. You don't have to be a computer scientist to be able to change the questions on your intake form.
Yeah, and we've seen a wide variety of preferences. Mm-hmm. So some of our clients really want very specific questions and a lot of conditional logic and, sort of complex decision-making trees built into their different intake forms. Other clients of ours just want a simple free-form field. So it really depends on what it is that you're looking for, but we can handle, varying levels of complexity and preferences. Another question that came through is, how do you control for artificial deadlines? So most requests come with urgency, whether it is truly an urgent matter or not. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that a lot of those requests are probably coming from your sales team. Everything from the sales team is always urgent, right? I think everyone can relate to that on this call. Jessica?
Yeah, so we do have the ability to kind of tag something as priority, right? However, that's something that can be turned on or not, right? And then we have also the ability to, if you tag something as priority, you have to put in a reason for it. And then with our flexible workflows I talked about before, any of the fields in our system can be tied to additional approvals. So maybe, somebody in some department tags something as priority, it has to go to their department head for approval, possibly before it can be fed onto the legal team, right? So we do have kind of the ability to put some safeguards in so that not everything is high priority, then regardless of whether or not it actually is. But that's something that I think, Matt, was the head of transformation. I think this is something, feel free to jump in, that with CLM, we've kind of run into the same, challenge as well, right?
Of course, and the great thing though is about the tool, because if it's getting to the right person straight away, then you're taking out briefcase time, you're taking wasted time out of the process anyway. You're now in a position where you can report. So if the legal team has an SLA, we will respond to a request within 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever might be what might be agreed. You can start, or maybe you don't have that yet, but that's something you've been discussing that with your business teams that you ought to have, is that kind of SLA, as a lot of teams do. But the point is, this gives you the information to be able to go, well, how long is it taking us at the moment across the piece for different types of requests? So you're using the information to come up with something sensible. But of course, the other thing is that because this will hopefully assign a task to an individual much more swiftly than maybe then you as the requester will then know who is the person who's got this, which enables you then to have that follow-up conversation and say, look, yeah, it's the 29th day of the month. I promised my boss I've got to get this closed by tomorrow. At which point you can have that conversation either using the tool or offline, but you know that you're having that conversation with the right person in order that actually that then if something genuinely is really urgent, the people understand that there is a genuine urgency and the reason for it. So I think, again, it's not, which actually goes both ways, because it means that the lawyer then knows that it's really urgent and genuinely knows that it's urgent, rather than going, it's just yet another urgent request, therefore it actually just goes in the next, it goes in the cab rank kind of way of dealing with things. So the tool really can help prioritize work, so you can weed out the really important things.
Absolutely. And another question that came in, does the solution support multiple languages? We are a global company, so we do business all over the world, and we do support multiple languages. And how customizable is the application? So how customizable, configurable is everything overall? We talked earlier about the intake form, but let's turn to other aspects like the dashboards, the reporting, the workflows. Matt, Jessica, any insight there?
Yeah, I mean, like Deidre said, we touched on kind of the configurability of the intake form that kind of feeds into everything else, right? So those workflows I talked about before, I showed a couple of different examples of how they can be set up, but they can really be set up to reflect your business needs. And then, with the configurability of that intake form, that then feeds into reporting. So then you're capturing that data that's most relevant to you. And then, even the things that like everything in the system can be named whatever you want, right? So maybe timekeeping isn't what you want to call it, but you want to call your tracking or something along those lines, like actions tracking or notes or something like that. You really can set it up the way that makes sense for you and your team.
But I think we've got best practice. So the point is, although it's very highly configurable, we've got the recommended way of setting it up, which as Jessica presented. But then if we're not using exactly the right language, then that can be changed. No code changes. That's done at the configuration layer. So that from a delivery point of view, we are always starting from best practice. But then can tailor it to your specific requirements, because it is so inherently flexible behind the scenes.
Absolutely. The next question is a commercial question, and that's, what is the cost for this intake form? So what is the cost for legal intake? That is going to depend on the size of your organization. So what we've done for legal intake is we've structured an enterprise-wide license dependent on your organizational size, because it really is, as we've talked about throughout this hour, all about connecting legal to the enterprise, to the business. So we want to ensure through that licensing model that anyone and everyone, for better or for worse, can contact the legal team and do so with ease. So it's an enterprise license model, and the price will range dependent on the size of your org. Another question that came through is, could you demonstrate the invite to collaborate feature? Interested in the ability to invite others for visibility to a matter after the request is submitted. I think with the amount of time that we have left, we won't be able to do that today, but we're happy to follow up with you on that and, schedule 5 minutes to walk you through. Another question, how long does it take to implement this solution in an SME organization prior to go live? So I'll turn this over to Matt, but before I do, as mentioned, keep in mind, one of the things is the ability to, one of the benefits is the ability to really customize or configure all of your workflows, all of your intake forms. So if you wanted something complicated, that's going to take longer. Something very basic, and perhaps that's what you might be alluding to as an SME, you just kind of want something a little bit more basic. That's going to be a much shorter timeline. Matt?
Look, I think it does depend. I think that when you're implementing a full CLM system, that generally, without integrations, takes between 12 and 16 weeks. This, in many cases, is simpler but it depends how complex you want to make it. Obviously, the teams here are very experienced at delivering workflows, so I would say it's generally going to be around the 8 to 12 week kind of period for a standard implementation.
Yeah. So for an SME, we're looking at about 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Another question. We've answered some of these. Let me keep
there was a question I noticed you just which can the system integrate with DocuSign to send receive contracts? And I think that's an easy yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you include a questionnaire in the request interface? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That was easy.
Yeah. And then, with that request interface, it can be very logic driven too. So, Deidre talked about decision trees and things like that. If you want kind of logic driven questions available, that's something that we can set up too.
Yes. We have a current customer who's attending the webinar, who wrote in, we already use Contract Pod AI for our contract management system, but have never heard of the legal intake option. It's not listed on our dashboard. Is this available to all CPAI clients? It is available as an add-on option if you are on the cloud platform. So as long as you're on cloud, we can then add that to your dashboard. It is an additional fee, of course, but we can then add that. And if you're not on cloud, we can have a follow-up conversation. Great. An additional question, can you generate a user feedback questionnaire to monitor how users are reacting to the system? I think that really feeds into the process metrics and the data that we're capturing around, around that life cycle. Jessica, is there any other context that you'd like to add there?
No, I think that makes sense. And I think too, we can work with your teams to kind of capture feedback and to Matt's point, this is something that we can do best practices to kind of implement, and then we'll meet with your teams and meet with your business users and see, get reactions on how it's working for them. And then we can make changes if we need to, right? So I think that's just kind of to highlight that flexibility of our system. We're always there to work with you to make it better.
Absolutely. And we have 2.5 minutes left. So I'll take another 1 or 2 questions. And then those questions that we haven't gotten to, just rest assured that we will answer everyone offline. So we'll put together a series of responses and get back to all of the attendees. One question, which is really interesting, and something that we've discussed a lot as a team, is there a specific industry where legal intake seems to be adopted more than others? And is there any specific size of company or legal team? So we initially went to market with a specific hypothesis that it would be industry agnostic. However, size of company would ultimately determine the serviceable addressable market. However, that hypothesis has been invalidated. And what we found, and we were quite surprised, is that we have very small companies, very small legal teams who can have an even greater need than a very large organization because of that employee to staff ratio, right? When you're dealing with smaller teams, there is an inherent need for a bit more automation. So we really, this type of solution really runs the gamut across all industries and team sizes.
And I'd probably just add to that. I think one of the things that I saw with smaller teams and speaking to clients, again, actually it can be, smaller teams can be of huge benefit because actually that's when you're suddenly getting bombarded and actually you can't manage it. If there's only 2 or 3 of you in a team and all 3 of you are getting bombarded with everything all the time, that's really, really frustrating, really inefficient. If you're, and because you're trying to juggle too many things, so actually the solution works, the principles work just as well with a small team as they do with a multinational with 30, 40, 50, 100 lawyers.
Absolutely. Well, we are right at time, everyone. Jessica, Matt, and I wanted to thank you so much for joining this webinar today. We hope that it was valuable for you and a really good use of your time. We will follow up with those responses as mentioned, and feel free to reach out to any of us if you'd like to have a follow-up conversation.
Yeah, and I just want to note too that we, we're rolling out new applications this year in corporate governance and litigation management. So we'll be doing more webinars as well. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thank you.